Here's a list of fictions in Heir to the Stars. Fiction. Fiction refers to the plot, settings, and characters created from the imagination. It's the lowest form of dimensional narrative. Nonfiction. This is the narrative scope and where reality, the world, or the state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. In physical terms, nonfiction is the totality of a system, known and unknown. Transfiction. This is when authors get together and make collabs or crossover events with other creators. With this, a character from one fictional piece of media can cross over to another piece of fictional media, or several fictional worlds can be combined temporarily. Fan fiction. Fan fiction is a narrative, mystical, cosmological creation about settings from an original verse, created by an outside observer beyond the verse rather than by its creator. Fan fiction is defined by being both related to its subject's canonical omniverse and simultaneously existing outside of it. Metafiction is a mystical cosmological device used self-consciously and scientifically to create a cosmology status as an article. It is a realm that creates relationships between fiction and reality, usually using invectiveness and self-reflection. Through this realm, every being is aware of the way of viewing the verse. Metafiction forces existence to be aware that they are viewing their own selves as a story. Hyperfiction is a mystical cosmological device used to constitute a verse continuous evolution. In other words, when the author, tier, design of the verse is already written, hyperfiction is an element that continues the progression of an already completed creation, surpassing the end, as the end simply becomes just the beginning of another variant of the plot development. Patafiction is an ever-transcendent cosmological device used to step beyond the realms of the metaphysics of fiction. Everything from the literacy devices and narrative causality to the word of the author are transcended by the scope of patafiction. Patafiction takes a step higher than metafiction, as patafiction explores modes and attributes of self-creation and the realm in which concepts themselves are created and defined. Operations within or on top of patafiction usually refers to the self-created authors of perspective. Interfiction. Interfiction is a preternatural cosmological device used self-consciously and scientifically to create an extended foundation of other modes and attributes of fictional realms. Interfiction splits apart imaginative narrative causality, encompassing the representative perspectives of truth and illusion, scholarly and poetic, personal and administrative, creating new modes of fiction. Interfiction steps into the gap between all realms of fiction, superseding the authors of said verse, changing what stories can and should do. Interfiction sits on top of all theories of the story. Personal fiction is the domain that houses the tier foundations of all fictional category underlying principles. It is the contra pure actus of impersonal fiction. Impersonal fiction is the domain that houses the opposing attributed fundamentals of all fictional category underlying principles. It is the contrapuntus to personal fiction. Turn a fiction. Turn a fiction is an exceed on top of the end of transcendence, a zenith ranked metallogically, cosmologically narrative device used to explore the principle behind reality, behind that in which self-creation can be observed. It steps beyond patafiction and creates a realm that defines and continuously redefines all modes and attributes of fiction.